Not all aircraft are created equal. Some planes have earned reputations so dark, so terrifying, that even the most experienced pilots think twice before climbing into the cockpit. These aren't just challenging aircraft or machines with quirky handling characteristics. These are planes that have killed, maimed, and traumatized enough pilots to earn a special place in aviation's Hall of Infamy. What makes an aircraft truly dangerous isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's a fundamental design flaw that makes the plane unforgiving of even minor pilot errors. Sometimes it's a combination of performance characteristics that create deadly traps for the unwary. And sometimes it's something more subtle, a tendency towards certain failure modes that turn routine flights into emergencies without warning. Today, we're going to examine 5 aircraft that have earned their fearsome reputations the hard way. These are planes that even combat pilots, men and women who've flown in war zones, who've landed on pitching aircraft carrier decks in storms, who've pushed high-performance military jets to their limits, have looked at and said, no thanks. Each of these aircraft has its defenders, pilots who've flown them safely and sing their praises. But the statistics, the accident reports, and the testimony of countless aviators tell a different story. These are aircraft that demand respect, extraordinary skill, and constant vigilance, and even then, they can kill you. 5. Piper Colt. The Piper Colt looks innocent enough. It's a 2-seat, high-wing trainer that was produced in the early 1960s as an economy alternative to the Piper Tri-Pacer. With its simple design and modest performance, you'd think this would be one of the safest, most forgiving aircraft ever built. You'd be dead wrong. The Piper Colt has earned a reputation as a widowmaker, and for good reason. The fundamental problem with the Colt lies in its flight characteristics, particularly its stall behavior and spin recovery characteristics. The aircraft has a tendency toward aggressive, unpredictable stalls that can quickly develop into spins. More terrifyingly, once the Colt enters a spin, recovery can be difficult or impossible, especially for pilots who aren't prepared for the aircraft's behavior. The wing design contributes to the problem. The Colt's wing has a tendency to stall asymmetrically, meaning one wing will often drop suddenly and violently during a stall, initiating a spin before the pilot realizes what's happening. In the hands of an inexperienced pilot or during low-altitude maneuvering, this characteristic has proven fatal time and time again. Accident reports from the 1960s and 1970s are filled with Colt accidents involving stall spin scenarios, often during the traffic pattern or during instructional flights. The aircraft became known in flight schools as particularly unforgiving, and many instructors refused to use them for spin training despite their low cost. What makes the Colt especially insidious is that it lulls pilots into a false sense of security. It's slow, it looks docile, and for much of the flight envelope it handles reasonably well. But at the edge of its performance envelope, the Colt transforms into something vicious. Pilots who treat it with the casual familiarity they'd give to a Cessna 150 or Piper Cherokee often pay the ultimate price. The control forces are light, which sounds like a good thing until you realize that light controls mean less tactile feedback and easier over-control. During landing, the Colt requires precise speed control and smooth inputs. Get slow in the pattern, add too much rudder during a turn, or allow the aircraft to get into a cross-controlled situation, and you might find yourself in an unrecoverable spin at an altitude where even a perfect recovery technique won't save you. Many pilots who've flown the Colt extensively describe it as an aircraft that never lets you relax, that always feels like it's waiting for you to make a mistake so it can bite you. Even combat pilots, accustomed to flying demanding aircraft, have noted that the Colt's combination of benign appearance and vicious handling at the edge of the envelope makes it more stressful to fly than many higher performance aircraft. 4. MAWL M7. The MAWL M7 is a rugged, powerful tail dragger designed for backcountry operations, short field performance, and operation from unimproved surfaces. It's beloved by bush pilots and backcountry enthusiasts for its ability to get into and out of places that would be impossible for most aircraft. It's also an aircraft that has humbled and injured numerous pilots who underestimated its demanding nature. The M7's reputation for danger stems from several factors. First, it's a tailwheel aircraft, which immediately makes it more challenging to handle on the ground than a tricycle gear plane. But the M7 takes this challenge to another level. The aircraft has a narrow landing gear stance combined with a high center of gravity, a combination that makes it prone to ground loop. A ground loop occurs when the tail of the aircraft swings around during landing or taxi, and it can happen with stunning speed. One moment you're landing normally, the next moment the aircraft is spinning, often resulting in wingtip strikes, propeller damage, collapsed gear, or worse. The M7's powerful engine, often a 260 horsepower beast, exacerbates the handling challenges. That much power in a relatively light airframe creates tremendous torque and P-factor effects, especially during takeoff and go-arounds. Pilots who aren't aggressive with right rudder during these critical phases of flight can quickly lose directional control. The aircraft will weather vane into the wind or torque roll, and if you're low and slow, you're out of options. In the backcountry environment where the M7 often operates, these handling characteristics become even more dangerous. You're operating from short, rough, sloped strips, often surrounded by trees or terrain that offers no margin for error. There's no long runway to straighten out a bounce. No clear area around the strip if you need to go around. You either get it right the first time, or you're going to have a very bad day. The accident reports tell the story. M7 accidents frequently involve loss of directional control during takeoff or landing, ground loops that result in substantial damage or injury, and stall spin accidents during go-arounds when pilots, already tar-saturated and behind the aircraft, fail to manage the powerful engine's torque effects. Experienced tailwheel pilots approach the M7 with caution and respect, recognizing that this is an aircraft that will expose any weakness in stick and rudder skills. Combat pilots, even those with extensive tailwheel experience, often note that the M7's combination of power, narrow gear, and challenging flight characteristics makes it more demanding than many military aircraft they've flown. It's an airplane that never forgives complacency and never gives you a break. 3. Lancer Evolution. The Lancer Evolution represents the pinnacle of experimental, amateur-built aircraft performance. It's a pressurized, turbine-powered speedster capable of cruising at altitudes above 25,000 feet, at speeds approaching 300 knots. It's also an aircraft with an accident rate that should terrify anyone considering stepping into the cockpit. The Evolution's danger stems from the fundamental mismatch between its performance capabilities and the pilot population flying it. This is an aircraft that performs like a business jet, but is often flown by pilots with only private pilot certificates and minimal experience in high-performance aircraft. The result has been predictable and tragic. The Evolution requires precise speed management during approach and landing. The aircraft is slippery and wants to fly, making it easy to get fast and difficult to slow down. Many Evolution accidents occur when pilots allow the aircraft to get too fast on approach, can't get it slowed down and configured in time, and either land long and fast, running off the end of the runway, or attempt a go-around that they execute poorly. The aircraft's speed in cruise creates its own hazards. At 300 knots true airspeed, things happen fast. Weather that you thought you could avoid is suddenly upon you. Traffic that was miles away is now a factor. Decisions that you'd normally have time to think through must be made immediately. Pilots transitioning from slower aircraft often find themselves behind the Evolution, unable to keep up with how fast situations develop. The pressurization system adds another layer of complexity and danger. Loss of pressurization at high altitude is immediately serious, requiring a rapid descent to breathable altitudes. Pilots who don't recognize and respond to a pressurization failure quickly can lose consciousness due to hypoxia. The Evolution's accident record reflects these challenges. The fatal accident rate for Landcare aircraft, including the Evolution, has been estimated at several times the rate for certified general aviation aircraft. Studies have shown that Lancair aircraft have been involved in fatal accidents at rates approaching 10 times that of similar certified aircraft. Even more disturbing, many of these accidents involve experienced pilots, including airline pilots and even military aviators. The Evolution doesn't discriminate. If you're not current, not proficient, not completely on your game, it will kill you just as readily as it would kill a low-time pilot. The aircraft demands constant attention, precise control inputs, and deep respect for its performance envelope. Combat pilots who've examined the Evolution's accident record often conclude that they'd rather fly a fighter jet in combat than an Evolution for personal transportation. At least in the fighter, they have ejection seats, and the training pipeline prepares you for the aircraft's performance. 2. Pipistrelle Panthera. The Pipistrelle Panthera seems like it should be the safest aircraft on this list. It's a modern composite four-seater from a respected manufacturer, equipped with advanced avionics and designed with safety in mind. It's also an aircraft with a troubled development history and characteristics that have raised serious concerns among test pilots and aviation safety experts. The Panthera's primary danger lies in its stall and spin characteristics. During certification testing and subsequent flights, the aircraft has demonstrated a tendency toward deep stalls and difficult spin recovery in certain configurations. A deep stall is a particularly dangerous condition where the aircraft's horizontal stabilizer becomes blanketed by turbulent air from the stalled wing, making it impossible to lower the nose and recover using normal techniques. Once in a deep stall, the aircraft descends in a flat, nose-high attitude with little forward speed and no effective control response. The only recovery may be a spin, which introduces its own recovery challenges, or impact with the ground. The Panthera's composite construction, while offering advantages in efficiency and performance, creates its own concerns. Composite structures can fail catastrophically and without warning. Unlike aluminum, which typically shows visible signs of stress and damage before failure, composites can harbor internal damage that's invisible from the outside. A hard landing, a flight through severe turbulence, or even long-term exposure to environmental factors can weaken composite structures in ways that aren't apparent until they fail. The aircraft's relatively high wing loading, meaning high weight relative to wing area, contributes to its demanding handling characteristics. High wing loading means higher stall speeds and less forgiving low-speed handling. It also means that stalls, when they occur, are more energetic and harder to recover from. Pilots transitioning from lower wing-loading aircraft like Cessnas or Pipers find the Panthera's speed requirements surprising and sometimes overwhelming. During approach and landing, the Panthera demands precise speed control. Get slow, and you're approaching stall territory where the aircraft's behavior becomes unpredictable. Get fast, and you'll float down the runway, potentially running out of pavement or setting yourself up for a bounced landing that could lead to loss of control. The aircraft's development has been plagued by delays and modifications related to spin characteristics, suggesting that even the manufacturer has struggled to tame the aircraft's behavior at the edge of the envelope. For combat pilots accustomed to aircraft with well-defined handling characteristics and proven safety records, the Panthera's troubled development and concerning stall spin behavior make it an aircraft to approach with extreme caution, if at all. 1. Beechcraft Starship. The Beechcraft Starship is one of the most futuristic-looking aircraft ever produced, with its canard configuration, pusher propellers, and sleek, composite airframe. It's also an aircraft that has been described as a maintenance nightmare, a financial disaster, and in some respects, a flying death trap. The Starship's reputation for danger stems from multiple factors. First, the canard configuration, while aerodynamically interesting, creates some challenging handling characteristics. The canard is designed to stall before the main wing, theoretically making the aircraft stall-proof in normal flight. But this design means that when approaching a stall, the nose drops dramatically and suddenly, and in certain configurations or during uncoordinated flight, the aircraft's behavior can be unpredictable and difficult to control. The pusher propeller configuration creates its own hazards. In the event of an engine failure or propeller problem, there's significant risk of debris from a failed propeller striking the aircraft structure or entering the cabin. Several Starship incidents have involved propeller failures that caused substantial structural damage to the aircraft. The composite construction that was revolutionary in the 1980s has proven to be a double-edged sword. Starship airframes have experienced delamination, where the layers of composite material separate, creating weak points in the structure. Lightning strikes, which would cause relatively minor damage to an aluminum aircraft, can cause catastrophic damage to the Starship's composite structure, potentially making the aircraft unairworthy or destroying critical systems. The aircraft's complex systems have proven difficult and expensive to maintain. Many Starships have been grounded because parts are unavailable, maintenance expertise is scarce, or the cost of keeping the aircraft airworthy has become prohibitive. This has led to a fleet of aging aircraft, some of which may have deferred maintenance or hidden problems that could manifest during flight. The Starship's performance, while impressive on paper, requires pilots to operate at high altitudes where pressurization failures or other emergencies become immediately life-threatening. The aircraft's speed and weight make it less forgiving of pilot errors during approach and landing. Several Starship accidents have involved hard landings or loss of control during landing, suggesting that the aircraft's handling characteristics during this critical phase of flight are demanding. Perhaps most damning, Beechcraft itself has worked to buy back and destroy Starships, reducing their support liability for the aircraft. When a manufacturer wants its own product removed from service, that should tell you something about the aircraft's suitability for continued operation. Combat pilots looking at the Starship see an aircraft with questionable structural integrity, complex systems that are difficult to maintain, challenging handling characteristics, and a manufacturer that's abandoned it. It's the kind of aircraft that looks impressive, but hides dangers that may not manifest until it's too late to do anything about them. These 5 aircraft represent different types of danger in aviation. Some are dangerous because of fundamental design flaws. Some are dangerous because their performance exceeds the capabilities of their typical pilot population. Some are dangerous because of manufacturing or maintenance issues. But all of them share one common characteristic. They've earned their fearsome reputations through accident reports, close calls, and the testimony of pilots who've experienced their dangers firsthand. If you ever find yourself with the opportunity to fly one of these aircraft, remember that confidence kills. Respect the machine, understand its limitations and dangers, and never assume that your skill alone will keep you safe.